Hey, everybody, and welcome to our first developers live stream of 2023. I am your host, David Ronak Shalau. Hold on one second. With me,
Guys, Chris, everybody just hold on. Chat, just hold on for 1 second. All right, David, go ahead.
Okay. You're starting over. Welcome to our
just start
first
over.
live stream of 2023. With me, as always, is my co-host, Anthony Guidi, aka Minus. Here's the thing. I actually made it through the beginning this time, but I left my volume up on the stupid Twitch. And anyway, here we go. Keeping things professional. As always, happy to have you here, Minus, to keep me in check.
I'm so happy I'm here. I mean, just for this beginning. So
I mean, we had a little bit of case of the giggles even before this thing started. So
we did.
I'm not feeling too bad. But hey, look who's with us. Chris Joppa Perkins. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
I think, is it okay to tell the inside joke that we gave Chris that long box so when he moves around?
We'll apparently I have a tendency to move around a little bit. So it's, I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. It's a little,
you have the special big box. You have the special box. A little
big. Yeah.
Well, next time maybe we'll put some pictures on the side or something.
Before we sorry, are we good to move on?
We're good.
Before we begin laying out the stream here, I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about our PA dates coming up. Starting January 28th at 10 p.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then ending 24 hours later on Sunday the 29th at 10 a.m. Also wanted to let our testers know that your characters will be the same as when you left them the last time. We're not doing a character wipe this time.
It's not planned. Let's put it that way. It's not planned at this point. So unless there's something that changes anyway. So
okay, fine. Chris, anything you want to add in regards to the upcoming PA test? Or just the fact that we're kicking off the year with testing at least once a month?
Well, I mean, that's the important thing. We'll be letting our PA testers know internally what to expect in the next build soon. But as a broader statement for right now, it's really that, yeah, we couldn't be more excited about hitting that monthly testing milestone. So can't wait.
Yeah, we're super psyched to get everybody back in.
Yeah, and it's been said before, and Chris, I think you've really talked about this and honed in on it, but there's really nothing as exciting as like opening the door to Terminus. I think that now that we're doing monthly, I think it's really fulfilling for the team. We get excited when the VIP testers get into the game and can go experience it, and we can see how that goes and collect feedback. Like this is it's going to be a really big year. I'm really excited about what this means for us going forward for sure.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's get into the stream that we're going to be doing here tonight. We're going to be focusing on some items relating to the roadmap. In particular, the high focus of early 2023, Q1 as we like to call it. And CP will be talking specific about certain things there. And then we're going to leave you with a brand new lore piece written by our lead writer, J.N. Gerhardt.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and let's get started getting into the roadmap and breaking down some of this stuff, CP.
Behind the scenes
right
of VR.
Where do we want to start?
Well, just as David pointed out, going through this, like, so what we did is we went through the alpha roadmap, and we kind of talked about some of the stuff that we could get more in depth in. So before we start, I want to make sure to say, Chris, that these are sort of like the focus items or things we're going to be focused on first and foremost. And we have people working on, actually, a lot of it's being worked on as we speak, which you'll give us updates on. Obviously, it's not completely encompassing of everything that's going to be done in Q1 or everything we're focusing on or what might come up. But Chris, I think, why don't we start? I think vinyl was a really big piece of last year. And we had I think the end of the year was that really triumphant implementation of vinyl, at least in its state that it was in, and seeing 500 testers get into the world. So I know the next thing that's sort of tied to that is the seamless zones. So that's going to obviously be a big focus. So if you want to start with like that seamless zones and what's going on there.
Yeah, well, so most of you are all well aware that we devoted a lot of time throughout 2022 on vinyl, focusing on vinyl, which is our in-house networking solution. And that focus was specifically on finishing vinyl, on integrating vinyl, and then ultimately validating that vinyl was going to be able to do what we needed it to do. We did that through towards the end of the year. We were able to roll out the game client on running on vinyl, purely on vinyl, to be tested. And we did that with our testers specifically to target a high volume of players and a high volume of activity, to put it through its paces and make sure that it was going to hold up and do what we were hoping and designed it to do. And one of the major milestones of 2022 was confirming exactly that we were able to host PA sessions purely on vinyl, and the networking held stable at a peak of approximately 500 players, concurrent players in not only in just one zone, but in a relatively compact area of that one zone. So being able to confirm that was huge. And that's a lot of the victory, that we were celebrating the end of last year. Now with that win in our loot bags, we now move into Q1 of 2023, and the focus now is activating and testing several of the MMO specific aspects of networking that vinyl will also handle. So essentially bringing the additional elements online that utilize the networking architecture to get the game more fully into its MMO form. The first of these Tony mentioned, and that is the seamless state of the overland. So historically, for those of you that have followed development for a long time, historically the game was set up to use hard zone lines. And what that meant is we would have a little, rectangular volume, like a literal like rectangle shape. That was a volume that when players ran into it, it would transfer them to the next zone. It would start loading the next zone, and you'd see a loading screen, and you'd zone over. It was very, number one, it was very limiting because it had to be done in that, you had to hit that little rectangle. But it also, we've been wanting to really fully realize the seamless overland because of what it lends to the sense of adventuring in the game. So that's going to be a really big moment. The first time that a player is able to run from Thrown Fast and into Avendir's Pass, especially our internal testers, our PA testers that have been testing the game, some of them for many years, it's going to be a really important moment. So that's something that we're working towards. With that is going to come a few things that are also, I think, just as cool and exciting ultimately. Number one, like I was describing with kind of the specific zone line points, one of the things that this is going to allow us to do now is have designer kind of hand-drawn zone lines. So we can essentially put a zone anywhere we want, being able to, shape it however we want. And certainly Pantheon and Terminus is going to have some pretty interesting access points with the various travel systems and traversal systems that we have. And so that's going to be really cool to see. But with that, we're also going to be improving our persistence architecture. So persistence is the stuff that makes sure that your character is always saved. It's your rollback protection. This is something that Steve Clover has some good experience with, and he's been able to feed into a little bit. So that's going to be getting a really nice upgrade in prep for all these changes. The next kind of grouping of things that it will involve is our social systems, and so this is going to include laying the foundation for the guild system, laying foundation for what will continuously grow into our looking for group system. It's going to allow for cross-zone communication. Since our refactor a few years back, one of the things that we've not had back in place was cross-zone communication. And so if you zoned over into Halnir Cave or into Thrown Fast from Avendir's Pass, you wouldn't actually be able to communicate directly with them anymore because there was this kind of clean cut handoff. So that's going to be coming back, but also with that is going to be global chat, where we want to utilize that. And just a lot of really neat social aspects that really make the game feel more like an MMO experience. We're now at a point where we can start bringing those things back and threading those back in. So it's really good stuff.
And without getting too off topic, for anybody who's heard the looking for group for the first time, don't worry. This isn't a system that's gonna. Chris, you've talked about this before.
It's not a group finder. It's not a it's not an automatic group finder or anything like that. It's just a more robust way of finding various people who are looking for group and being able to articulate, more specifics about who you are as someone who's advertising themselves for a group, what you're looking for. It should be just a much more robust way of really matching up with people to then, make your way to join one another and be on your way.
It's so cool as somebody who's, been here for a while to see the transition to seamless zones. It's something that I've always wanted for Pantheon and sort of come up in conversation, and now to see it like being put into effect is so cool. Vinyl has been such a big topic for us, and transitioning into these items is another big step for us. But let's move on, CP, to something that we're going to spend quite a bit of time on, and that's crafting and gathering. I know a lot's been going on behind the scenes with crafting and gathering. So can you tell us where we are and what you're sort of looking to accomplish with crafting and gathering in Q1?
Yeah, so this is an area where David Beach, Nefel, as many of you know him, and Steve Clover have been working together on. And they've been doing some amazing work. They've been making some really serious progress, even just since we've been back from the holiday season. What I'm going to do for this, David actually just published some patch notes internally for an internal update meeting that we had at the beginning of this week. So I'm going to just share a few of those to give a sense of where we're at. But I'm intentionally going to stay away from some of the things that we can expect coming soon, because I don't want to steal his thunder. I want him to be able to talk about those things, because we'll hopefully be able to start talking about them and demonstrating them even pretty soon. But so regarding gathering, we've now transitioned our gathering nodes into actual entities, very similar to NPCs. And so what that means is that nodes are now able to be selected as offensive targets. This allows for players to have a visual of the health bar of the node that's targeted, so they can see how much health the node has as it's being interacted with, chipped away at. The cool thing about that is part of what we'll be talking more about here soon when we get into some of the more updates that are coming along. But suffice it to say, the mechanics of the system that are meant to make gathering interactions more interesting, more dynamic, more involved for the player, those are the things that are being worked on and will hopefully be demonstrable soon. And being able to target the nodes, having them kind of under the hood functioning more as NPCs, as actual entities, is going to allow for a lot of those mechanics to come into play. We also have the kind of the loop working, where the better your gathering tool is, the among other benefits that may bring, it's also going to do more damage, be more effective as you're using it with a node. Gathering skills are now improving with use. We've got the gathering animation, the interaction of the gathering now synced up with the delay value of the tool that is being used. And so, again, these are all just kind of very fundamental things, but as they come together and coalesce, all these changes are making the gathering loop much more enjoyable, feel much more intact. And so there's just a lot of really great progress there. And then with the second half of the update that we'll be talking about, probably in a dev stream not too long from now, we can demonstrate some of those more dynamic and interaction-based elements that players can look forward to. So I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Well, I know that crafting has always been a pretty energizing topic for our community. So I think it's exciting to say that, look forward to a live stream with some in-game actual demonstration and looking at the crafting system. Obviously, we got to get David on for something like that, Nafel, so he can really talk to it and be that expert. So moving on, Chris, and I'd love you even to talk a little bit about last year and this process before we even jump into this. But obviously, our biggest growth as a company, we obviously really grew as a team last year. I mean, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year was probably the most significant growth we've had as a company. And a lot of that was the art team. We got a lot of different artists in with different capabilities. So my guess is obviously when you're bringing people on board, there's a lot of learning to be done. There's a lot of process flow. There's a lot of building relationships, right? Going from concept to actual in-game items and stuff like that. And then obviously just some of the changes that we've had internally with how we do that. So moving into 2023, I feel like we're on a really good path because I think everyone's really clicking and we can see that. So first, if you wouldn't mind, kind of tell me about where you think, from last year to now, where the art team is, how they're working together. And then we can maybe start getting into some of the world building discussion.
Yeah, I mean, the art team is fantastic. We have amazing people. We've always been very just blessed. I'm very grateful with the people that we have that make up this team, not only in talent but in culture. These things sound kind of generic, what I'm saying, I guess, right now, but when you're living it, it's very meaningful. Because the culture of a company matters, and especially a company where the product that we're creating is such a sum is greater than the parts kind of an experience where we're all contributing very viscerally, heart and soul level, contributions. It makes a big difference. So I couldn't say enough about how pleased I am with the dynamics of the team, the culture, the synchronicity of our goals and thinking and whatnot. I mean, as far as like the actual development and what I would say to that is, I absolutely feel like we have hit our stride as kind of an art team, and the production of the art team. The production of the art team is just churning out. It is a flow of really what we've just kind of completed and you've seen us working on in ThroneFast, where we've got the concept art that Brett has finished of like the city and the different, the Avelia Village and these different things, and we're seeing those assets be created, and we're seeing those assets then, once they're created, put in place, and we're actually seeing these areas now depict what they have been represented to depict in the concept. And we're very fundamental in terms of, when we have lore, for example, that substantiates something in the game, that's how we want to build it. That's how we want to craft the world and the setting and the context. And in the same way, we have Jared and Brett, these amazing concept artists who, working with JN, our lead writer, and kind of immersing themselves in the lore and working with design and understanding kind of the goal for the area gameplay wise, I feel like there's a really awesome synergy there. And so we've been able to, do the art updates on ThroneFast City and get that in place. We've been able to update all of our residential dwellings in Avelia and get those in place. And now we've shifted into Avenger's Pass, and we're really doing the same thing in that we're revisiting the major POIs in Avenger's Pass. The two that I mainly have in mind are Pangor, the snowy area in where the orc establishment is, and then Mad Run, which I'm going to say less about because I don't think there's been a whole lot of info on that yet. But we're getting those areas finalized. We're getting the art passes of those areas finalized, and that's really kind of our clip now. Is as we move from area to area, come in, nail the POIs, the major POIs that we have there. I'm gonna talk a little more in just a second about the biomes and how significant the progress we've made there is, because well, I mean, I guess I'll just say it now, but the Esther's are one of our newer artists, environment artists. Esther has been doing a phenomenal job on the flora and has just wrapped up the ground flora for the Thrown Fast biome, meaning the flowers, the plants, things like that. She has the elkhorn tree left to do, but as that is completed, the way that we're setting up Thrown Fast, or the way that we're setting up Terminus in biomes, means that the flora that we've developed for Thrown Fast is also the same flora that will construct and make up the biome for Avendir's Pass, the majority of Eastern Plains, the majority of Blackrose Keep, and the transitional areas as you move into Wild's End and as you move into Silent Plains. And so that's a lot of world that already has all of these biome elements intact. And that's not just flowers and trees, but that also includes the rocks, includes the caves, and other things that would be consistent if you're talking about an area of the same biome. And so that's where you're going to see us in 2023 kind of picking up steam as we're able to take a lot of these kits and a lot of these compilations of assets that are meant to work together as a whole, and we're able to much more quickly spread and lay out these new areas utilizing all of those. So,
and if I could, just because it was asked in chat, and I think that maybe it's just a misunderstanding of what you're saying, because our zones, like AVP and Thrown Fast, are connected. They're going to be very similar, but our zones aren't going to, just because we use some similar assets, it doesn't mean the zone is going to be identical. The way it's built, the way the world is, right? I mean, do you want to comment on that? Because someone in the chat was just like, does that mean everything's going to look the same? And I think we can say that's not the case, right?
Right. It's good to think about it in light of the seamless nature of the overland. And one of the reasons why we're going that approach, because in a purely zone-based game, it does kind of create this expectation that if I'm going to hit like a true zone line, that means that I'm zoning into some area that I would expect to be relatively distinct and different from where I just left. Whereas the beauty of having a seamless world is that even though there will still be architecture in place to say this player is in Thrown Fast versus this player is in Avendir's Pass for things like the chat channels and task quest tracking, and when you search for a player and it tells you where they are, it's going to say like they're in Thrown Fast, they're in Avendir's Pass. But in the function of actually moving around through the world, you're going to seamlessly move from this area to that, this zone to that zone. And so the biome, even though the biome will be the same, made up of the same stuff, it's going to just feel like you are in this massive biome that is of this type. So it won't necessarily be you thinking like, man, these zones, Avendir's Pass and Thrown Fast, they look the same. I mean, they won't look the same because the layout of the zones and just the makeup of the zones are very, very different.
It's like when you're in AVP and you're in AVP, which is human land, it's got that outskirts of the city feel. And then all of a sudden you start walking towards Hangor. It's like you seeing all these like trees and you're kind of in that wilderness, and then it starts to thin out a little bit. And then all of a sudden you start to see the trickles of snow. And it's like that transition of, like you're saying, like the biome, like you're going to see that doesn't need to be at a zone line anymore because the world's seamless. Right. So I think that's kind of,
it's a little bit special, the area we're talking about now, because it is a larger footprint of a biome. Silent Plains is more distinct. Fairthale is more distinct, and so you're going to see places of the world that the biome transition is faster, if you will. You're gonna move from one biome to another more presently as you're moving from one area to another. But then there will be other places where the biome is consistent over larger portions of the overland. So I think it's something that'll make sense and feel more natural as you play and experience it.
But even within a large zone like AVP, you have very distinct areas, right? Like Hangor looks completely different from Mad Run, looks different than
Right.
the village, So
That's right.
even though you're saying like we just don't want people to be like, oh, this is one, everything
like
looks
being-
exactly the same.
Think about being
Right.
outside in the world right now, right? It's like you're out, you go to another city, it slowly transitions. It's not just like, boom, you're in Atlanta. Like, like you got to get there. I think that's the difference between having zones that you load and change out in versus having a living, breathing world that's going to connect. And I think that's the big thing you're going to see is that connection, like how the world, how one area becomes the next. And it's not just a hard line. So, Chris, if you want, I know we talked about this. I know some people have seen we've been working on Wild's End here and there, and we've showed some stuff. You comfortable telling them after we get AVP in what we're going to be focused on next? I know we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, well, Silent Plains will be our next focus. It's a really pivotal part of the continent because it is kind of the connection point between the different extremes of the landmass. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it because it is going to be a nice relief, a nice break from the more craggy kind of cliff high, towering cliff riddled areas of Thrown Fast and Avendir's Pass. It's a plains, and so it's going to be much more open and flowing. And so it'll be, and it's massive. I mean, Silent Plains is massive, and so it is this really cool moment where you cross into this just rolling, massive, immense area that is all of a sudden much more open. It contrasted with the massive deicide thorns that are jutting out of the ground, and it's a really cool aesthetic in that zone. And for King's Reach, it's the continent of King's Reach. It is, especially for humans, it's going to be that the first time that you really get that full kind of overwhelming sense of high fantasy. Like, this is very unlike what I would expect. This is very kind of almost otherworldly, high fantasy in that sense. Plus, Silent Plains has such a theme of wind. Wind is a really big theme in Silent Plains, from the way that it's affected the landscape, the fact that the pretty much the entirety of the southern border of Silent Plains is oceanfront, but then also Sky Durban, the major village / city town that's there, and some of the NPCs and the different things are really kind of themed around wind as a mechanic. And as wind and wind shear and things like that are going to be an actual part of the mechanic of the game as well. So I'm excited about a lot of the things that we're going to be doing in that zone.
And David, I think you teased a little bit of Sky Durban, right? We had a concept art piece that went out. What was that for? I
think that was our Happy New Year post, right?
That's right.
Pretty sure.
So if anyone's caught that, check that out. Little tease at Sky Durban, which Chris has teased in. Now we all want to see more of. So
and we will, right? I mean, we definitely have it in house, and so we'll be getting that out to the public at some point soon. But what I love about Silent Plains is just before we move on, real quick, is you talk, Chris, about the difference between moving. Fairfell has its own sort of vibe to it, and Wild's End has its own sort of vibe as well, and we've seen a lot of that. I think the cool thing about Silent Plains is it's something that we haven't really showcased so much yet. And it, like you're saying, it's that high fantasy. It's that it feels otherworldly, even more so than Wild's End to me.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, okay, staying on art a little bit, but let's switch over to player models. We've seen some updates on live streams to the human male and the human female, but we haven't seen them in game yet. Can you give us an idea on where we are with player models, animations, and such?
Yep. Well, so the good news is Kyle is working on the human models as we speak, and once we get those in, he's working on the integration of the human models to be playable, just to be clear. And once those are fully integrated, hooked up primarily to the player controller, the thing that governs the animations, the utilization of the rig, and kind of the whole animation suite, then we will start hooking up a lot of the new animations that we've been working on, and it's going to be really, really exciting to see. Some of the improvements to like running and sprinting, the idle animations.
I was going to say that, Chris. The idle, you don't realize how important an idle animation is, like just standing there, until you see sort of the difference in some of those new idle animations that we've got to check out that we're going to be implementing. It just makes the character feel more alive, right? Like it's like breathing and just that stance. It's I can't wait for that. That's going to be great.
I'm excited about the all the new swordplay stuff that we're going to show off because I mean that's some fancy swordplay.
Yeah. There's a lot of animation polish that I hesitate to say polish because it's our approach to animation has been pretty iterative, and so for the sake of developing a breadth of animations to cover a lot of the different system development that we've wanted to do, we've churned out a lot of animations that have been serviceable. They've been functional. They've conveyed good meaning and intent of movement and clarity of movement and whatnot. But we're also in a phase now where we're going back through relatively systematically and looking at the attack animations, the auto attacks, but then also looking at because weapon techniques are such a crucial part of the combat experience and the progression experience. We want it to obviously be exciting when you unlock a new weapon technique or learn or discover a new weapon technique. I don't think Zelda 2 on the NES would have been as exciting when you unlocked the upward thrust or the downward thrust if it didn't have some kind of new and compelling animation to go along with it to say you've learned something significant. So we're taking a good look at those, but then what's I don't have a good word for it, but the things like the idols, things like the combat idol, the non-combat idol, the run, finally getting the walk into the game, being able to walk as a player character, and those kinds of animations, also improving those. It's just Q1 will definitely be, as we get these new models in and get these animations hooked up, it'll be a really nice I think expose of the fact that we do very much intend to continue to polish our animations and bring them into a greater level of quality.
And David, I think we can both say we're chomping at the bit. Once those are in and we got them tested, we'll be showing those off like crazy at a live stream. So for sure, everyone can expect to see that when it's ready.
Do you guys hear my dogs?
No.
Okay. My dog's going nuts right now. I just wasn't sure if you guys heard or not.
No.
But CP, sorry to interrupt. Can we go back to the models, because I'm obviously super interested in the Darkmer. I'm going to be a Darkmer enchanter. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, those will be closely following on the heels of the human because they are finished as far as the models go. And so once we get the humans integrated, then we'll be having the Darkmer soon to follow.
And they look awesome. I can't wait till we can show off the Darkmer, because it's something special. It's definitely different than I think what people are expecting, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think
there's a nice little. I think what people should expect is absolutely what we've shown in our concepts, and I think people have a good idea of what to expect. I think the implementation and the actual execution of it is phenomenal, but I think there's some cool things about them that people don't expect that I think are gonna be really fun.
We won't tease anymore, but yes, and I gotta tell you, David, you're right. I'm gonna be transparent here. We can't wait to show that. So
you're right, David. We can hear your dogs. Is that what you're about to say?
No, but I can't hear your dogs. You're fine. But what I was gonna say is just it's. Let me put it this way: it's gonna be a really good unveil when they come. We already are planning. We have some fun stuff already that we're putting together. When they're ready, that stream that we will put together, sort of like, I don't want to say like a level of HDRP, but Chris, remember how excited we were to finally do that HDRP stream last year? I'm like close to that with being able to show the humans in game and then this unveil that I think people have been waiting for a long time. So. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we've talked about with the art. Obviously, Chris, too, we're working on armor implementation. We've shown some of that with some of our armor, with the turntables that we showed, the different variations of the armor we're able to build. And we also had Tara and Duarte really talk to how they've created a system for us that's, for a small team, it's really going to help us build out our armor sets that look unique without having to just do tons and tons of work for each one, but still have that impact. So I think that's exciting. So anything else you wanted to add on armor and weapons that'll be coming in?
Just that Philip has been doing some amazing work on those, on the same level of some of the ones that we did showcase a little while back, and they're just in perpetual development. More armor, more weapons.
Cool. So strong updates. Like I said, last year, I kind of referenced that HDRP. That was huge for us last year, a successful implementation of vinyl. It's pretty apparent that at this point, is it fair to say, Chris, like we're really going heavy on world building now, even more so than before, placing content.
We need a big world. We need a big world. We need content. I should say there's a big world to be made. And we're ready. We're ready to really start digging and grinding into that to chew through the development of the rest of these areas. Certainly that we have planned and scoped for alpha, and then the faster we do that, the faster we're able to see content then come in and be layered in behind that. And even bringing AVP online with, again, I'm pretty sure we've talked about the fact that with the transition to HDRP, with the kind of the update to the topography that we've talked about when we unveiled kind of the mountain structure and how that synergizes with our different planned traversal mechanics. The size of these areas has grown immensely. I mean, immensely. And AVP, as big as Avenger's Pass was as a zone, it's twice as big now, at least. So it's very exciting to see more places to go, more things to do, more content coming online, more POIs being developed and finalized, and that's, I mean, our hearts, our minds, our efforts are set on getting to alpha, and so we're working on every level to finish. We're looking to finalize. We're looking to get this done and move to the next place. And there's like this deep breath that we've been breathing, like getting a lot of tech debt shored up, getting a lot of tools and systems and things in place to allow for things to be done at a much faster clip, for things to be designer driven, for the tools to do the majority of the heavy lifting. Our team grew last year. We anticipate there to be more growth this year. It is about getting this thing done. We're ready. So this is the forward lean of this year. It is a it is a Michael Jackson-esque stage forward lean where we are really leaning all into moving quickly, as quickly as we can, but still, doing justice to the quality of what we're creating.
Somebody needs to make a meme now of you doing like the Michael Jackson lean.
I immediately went back to that. What was
We'll
that
do a
Genesis
contest.
game with Michael Jackson? You remember
Moonwalker.
that? Yeah, I
Moonwalker.
immediately went back to that game when he said that.
What is it? What's the new one now? The horror game, the Ayawoki or whatever? Ayawoki, has anyone?
No, I don't know that one. No,
I don't know that one either.
Thankfully, I'm secure enough in myself to throw it out. Throw something out there.
All right.
Sure.
So CP, before we wrap up and go to a couple other things, I just want to give you any opportunity here. If there's anything else you want to throw out there, any shout outs to the team, anything like that before we move forward.
I think 2023 being called the banner year of the Michael Jackson lean, I think that's hilarious.
So we're going from
immersion,
eminence,
right? To lean.
No, we have to put Michael Jackson.
Year of immersion. That's a good one too.
The year of the immersive lean.
I think Michael Jackson has to be.
I'm gonna let you riff on that one a little bit more, David, before we finalize it. I think you can do better than that.
Give me some time.
Yeah. What was the question, by the way? Sorry.
Just anything else you wanted to talk about, like Q1, here we are, 2023, or if there's any just shout outs to the team, some impressive work that's done, or
he's fishing for a compliment. When he says
not me.
Shout outs for a team, he wants you to shout him out.
No, I do not.
Well,
just anybody that
minus,
I know that you got to give Esther a really good shout out there, and I think she's still newer to the team, and people haven't got to see a ton of her work yet. But I just didn't know if you wanted to give any more shout outs to some of the stuff we've gone through.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, Esther is so cool. And she is just, I mean, her foliage and the work that she's doing on that stuff. I was able to do a call with her earlier today and get an update on some of the work that she's doing, finalizing those materials and, different lighting framework. And it's just beautiful. It is just beautiful, and I can't wait to see it all fully integrated into the biomes that we're working within now. But and
we've talked about it before, but
they're all amazing.
Yeah, like the all the hires last year just fit in so seamlessly, and they've been just pumping out such great work. It's so encouraging, for us vets here to watch it and just see the game grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would shout out everybody. Like that's kind of the difficult thing on streams like this and just anytime we do public updates, because the reality is, like, every single person on this team, it's not a large team, and everybody is doing critical path work and amazing work. And so even though certain names will come to mind as we're talking about certain specific things, it's never to overshadow. And we do try to do our best to give shout outs consistently and thoroughly enough, because the reality is video games are especially what they've grown into and become these days, they're monumental projects. There's not a single aspect of how they work and how they function and how they are maintained and everything that goes into them that isn't worthy of just tipping your hat to all the way and repeatedly so. And so the work that everybody is doing is fantastic and integral, vital. We go on existing because of the contributions of every single person on the team. So I will give a team-wide shout out to the incredible people and incredible work that everybody's doing. I can't say enough, but the thing that we all look forward to collectively is going back to what you said earlier, minus why it's so meaningful when we do testing sessions, because the point is we're making a game. Like, we're not painting, we're not creating a piece of art, we're to hang on a wall. We're creating something that is meant to be experienced, and the more of that experiencing that can be happening, that's what's most satisfying to us, for sure.
It's always great to have you come on the show. I feel like outside of the AMA, we really haven't had you come on and talk about updates and sort of game development. So thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for all that you bring, David.
I
Thank you for your
bring
swan. Thank you for your hair.
I bring the immersive lean to the team. Hey, if you
Thunderous lean.
the
Thunderous lean.
Yeah, and the corpses. Hey everybody, if you like what you saw today, or if you feel like just coming on.
What is that? Us?
Me? I enjoyed it.
Three pictures of us.
That's not true. We had a video going on the side. We had a whole video going on the side of your big window.
Yeah.
That was playing this game that we're working on. So all right, how about this? If you like what you saw and heard today, please go to pantheonmmo.com and check out our pledge pages. Spread the word. Pantheon is a crowdfunded game, and we obviously couldn't do this without you guys.
Well, listen, Chris, I don't know what you're talking about because there were many people in the chat that really enjoyed my dad cardigan or sweater, as they called it, that I'm wearing. Good. So, I mean, we did have that. There was that. That was really the main thing at stake tonight. Yeah, I was really trying. I tried hard tonight. I really did. Yeah. No, listen, with what David's saying, you guys can see, and I think, Chris, we really showed this recently during the AMA. We have great relationships with the team. We joke with each other, but we get a lot of work done, and it's fun, and we enjoy being able to do this in front of you. I hope you guys see that we take the work we do seriously, but we want to have fun with you. We are also part of this community, and we appreciate anything you do. If you can't pledge, listen, we understand. But everything you do from a standpoint of spreading the word, following us on Twitter, following our YouTube, sharing our YouTube videos out, telling your friends and family, like all that stuff matters. We really appreciate everybody who can pledge, be a part of testing, and help us with that side of keeping this game going. But there's also a really important part of just sharing the content, being in the community, chatting with us, chatting with each other, and just helping be a part of this game coming to life. Because you really, you guys are insiders. I think we all like being insiders, right? Like when you're in at the beginning, you're in at the front, you can tell the stories at the beginning. You're all here for that, helping us build this story because there's an amazing game coming. But it's also an amazing story that we're all part of. And it's just, to me, without getting super sappy here, like it's important. I think we're all going to look back at this time really positively. So again, even just sharing stuff, following us, giving us shout outs, answering our polls, starting conversation, being a part with us is awesome. So other than that,
smash
David,
that like button.
What's that?
Yeah, we're gonna
smash the like button.
If we've been talking about doing that, smash the like button, we should just clip that. We'll just play it at the beginning of all the streams. Smash that like button. That's awesome.
I can't stand that. that was meant to be a joke. I don't ever want to grow saying that.
Just so you know, the chat is letting you know that is not on Twitch. There is no like button.
I know, and I'm thankful for that.
Hey, David. Next Thursday, you two guys will be live on Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, for Parting the Veil, right? Talking about climates and fractures.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then, of course, we're going to have more updates on the alpha roadmap in our newsletter at the end of the month. We covered a lot in the stream today, and we're going to close today's stream on a brand new lore piece from our lead writer, J.N. Gerhardt. The lore will introduce a new faction of nomadic travelers, the Eridola. Enjoy, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, all. Onward and upward.
There are stories woven into the fabric of Terminus that are barely remembered, even by the people who first told them. If not for the infinite record of deities like Osirico or the studious searchings of the Keepers, the majority of most lives would be forgotten. That is the nature of the fallen. They are mortal and thus fleeing, rising and falling like grass, needing the archives of the immortal to keep their memory alive. A memory is an oddly shaped thing. In your mind, it can be grasped like a well-weighted stone, the sort that feels good to toss in your hand as you amble beside a river. To your companion, however, that same memory is also a stone, but hot and heavy in their palm. It radiates, perhaps with joy, perhaps with pain, alive in a way that your stone will never be. To observers, it's the same stone, the same moment shared between friends. But when either of you hold it aloft, that memory might as well be two different events. Among the most ancient races of Terminus, there are shared legends that also reveal the deepest of differences. Stories that burn hot and heavy to one people, cold and lifeless to another. Then there are tales unremembered, shuttered off, drifting wordlessly to the bottom of the river until someone else picks them up further downstream and asks, I wonder what this is all about. The Aredola are a people born of that question. Of their own history, they know very little and share even less, instead stewarding the wisdoms of the forgotten peoples of Terminus. This tradition is not by accident or oversight, but rather by intent. In fact, the Aredola are often said to be the very people who seeded a now widespread belief that maps invite misfortune, or more plainly, that a map is simply bad luck. To this day, the Aredola believe that any link to their own past will only invite the unspoken horror that dwell within it. With this dour introduction, you might assume that the Aredola are a shadowy, suspicious people, but that could not be further from the truth. Their culture is shaped by dance and song, surrounded in myth and mysticism, alive with joy and hospitality. Living in nomadic tent villages called Woda, the Aredola have no permanent home, no nation they hail from, or land that they will someday return to. Nothing but the Woda and the peoples to protect. They subsist off a mixture of their own provisions, limited harvesting of resources, and trade with the locals. Thus, it is said that as long as there are birds in the air or fish in the sea, the Aredola will have a place to dwell. They've never met a stranger, have few foes, and even have a legacy as bear trainers, at times being seen riding the Great Ogrim. This is where the Are portion of their name is believed to have originated, for they did not give the Aredola title to themselves. Aredola myths and stories are shared by only oral historians. This practice has its roots in the great diaspora of the people who became the Aredola, when their great storehouses of wisdom were utterly destroyed. That which they could not carry in their hearts and minds was lost forever. Therefore, the practice of storing wisdom and knowledge in the indestructible vault of the soul became one of their few enduring traditions. Losing most of their own history, the Aredola began to memorize and share the lost narratives of cultures they found in their travels, instead of remembering their own. Music often accompanies the sharing of these narratives and is a foundational aspect of the Aredola culture. Drums, stringed instruments, and flutes, as well as hybridizations of these instruments, many of which are not duplicated in the rest of the world. Dance and song attend every gathering, mixing their own style along those other cultures they have invited in. While Aredola Woda have variations through the globe, most share these basic customs. Thus, it is not uncommon for members to stay with one group for several months or years before passing on to the next. The Aredola tale is not complete with at least mentioning their seaborne counterparts, the Detedola. Little is known about the Aredola past, far less even suggested about the Detedola, aside from how they exist today. Dwelling in water-bound equivalents to Woda, the Detedola spend their entire life on the sea, in communities of rafts, ships, and even floating chunks of land. Aredola and Detedola use a term similar to cousin to describe one another, but aside from a mutual warm and hospitable nature, they have little in common. While Aredola may move from one Woda to the next, a transition from Aredola to Detedola is far more difficult. Life on the open sea seems best endured if begun in childhood, while few Detedola can tolerate the life on land. This is due to months or even years of land sickness, where the relative stability of land works against Detedola's seaborne equilibrium. The Detedola no doubt have their tales of the sea, but carry little of the storytelling fervor of their land-based brethren. Perhaps it is fitting to close with a tale that is sung around all Aredola fires, that of the carpenter and the queen. As it goes, there was once a beautiful island queen. Of course she was beautiful, for as the Aradola say, the most handsome king is a king you cannot see. This queen was beautiful, yes, but also quite ruthless, conquering each of her rival nations while still young in her rule. Finished with conquest, her throne was carved into the highest cliff on the tallest mountain on the island, from which she surveyed her empire and the seas beyond, believing she had conquered the world. Now, according to the song, these people believed there was only their island and the sea in all of existence. None had ever ventured beyond the shore. Yet one night, the queen awoke from a terrible dream, and before the sun had risen, she summoned her most skilled rulers to lend their wisdom. As the flames of her throne room whipped into the wind atop the cliffs, the queen exclaimed she had witnessed a new world in her dream, a land beyond the sea that she must conquer. She demanded that they find a way to reach that land, under pain of death. First, the queen's most powerful mage declared he would push the waters away until her armies could walk on dry land to that new world. Yet, after several boisterous attempts, he generated only a few waves. Impatient, the queen ordered him thrown off the cliff, and his body finally making good on a promise to part the waves. A wizened sage next claimed that she could pull the new land to their island, an idea the queen seemed to love. But this boast fared as well as her counterparts, thus her body was next cast off the cliff and into the sea. The queen's oldest summoner claimed he would simply make the new land appear before, which he did. Yet after many tries, he managed only a small mound of earth. Thus, he became a small mound of flesh on the rocks below. One after another, the mightiest minds of the empire failed to satisfy the queen's demand, until at last there came a carpenter up her steps. Quiet and poor, he had nothing but a few tools and a family to his name. Amused, the queen laughed and asked the weary carpenter how he could possibly bring this queen to this new world. "I will build you a boat," he said. "Indeed, I already have. It is a ship great enough to hold you and your army, and it's waiting for you on the shore. It is my life's work. I had one day hoped to use it myself, but I offered it to you, my queen." Falling silent, the queen demanded to be carried down to the shore to see the vessel. Her skepticism melted away under the promise that this craft was indeed the key to fulfilling her dream. Within days, she and her army boarded the ship and cast off, leaving the island behind. The carpenter watched from the shore with his family, the ship speeding off, with a magnificent smile widening across his face. His wife observed this and asked why he smiled so large when his greatest creation was being taken away. "What was made once may be made once more," he replied as the queen and her armies sailed toward the horizon, never to be seen again. "But what is lost may never again be found." Much like the Aradola, the islanders soon traveled the world, but never again served a queen or a king.